yeah, of course we want to plan time for everyone to be together.
Yep.
But tensions are often highest when everyone in the family is together. So we've got to be strategic with family time based on your unique level of connection as a family.
Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your step family from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of step family life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to a fun week here on the Blended Family Coaching Show. We are really excited to dive into a bit of a lighter topic today. Now, we've been talking a lot about some heavy stuff over the past several episodes.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing wrong with that because many of us have to face a lot of heavy stuff in our blended families every day, right?
Yeah, we've been talking about rejection and power struggles and lots of stuff.
But we all need those times where we can be reminded of the good moments and get focused on the fun that's possible and even strategize how to have more of those moments.
Yes.
So over on Apple Podcasts, one listener recently left a review that said, we need all the help we can get with 6 kids. And they said, it's so very hard to connect. Thank you for your help. Thanks so much for that rating and review of the show. And what a great point. It is so very hard to connect sometimes. I remember many seasons along the way where building connected bonds felt almost impossible. And of course, the more kids there are, the busier we get, that seems even more difficult, right?
Of course.
So while we're going to have a little bit of fun today on a lighter topic, that doesn't diminish the critical nature of what we're talking about today. And if you're listening but haven't left a rating or a review yet, I'm just wondering if you might take a moment to do that for us. We would so appreciate it. We'd be grateful for your feedback and your support. And if we're bringing value for you, maybe you could consider sharing your favorite episode out on your social media. Let your community know how we're helping you. And you never know who else is out there that might benefit from support in their blended family journey as well.
Yeah.
But for today, let's dive into some fun topics around creating family time and encouraging bonding.
Yeah, because we want to increase our opportunities to be able to have fun together and to build our familyness and our connections.
Yeah, I like having fun.
But we do need to be strategic because this is a little bit tricky. Now, back in episode 72, we talked about the best way to create healthy bonded relationships.
Yes.
And it's all about crock pot cooking.
That's right.
Low pressure, slow, patiently waiting for relational blending to happen naturally and gradually.
Yeah, low and slow, like a lowrider car show.
Is that how it is, honey?
I guess so. I don't know. I just made that up.
We really want to avoid the pressure cooker and the microwave and even the blender.
Yeah, that's right.
That doesn't work either.
That's right.
And instead, focus on taking things low and slow. We're choosing to lower our high expectations, and we're going to allow the kids to set the bonding pace and discover where they just naturally fit in and where they're comfortable. We aren't pushing our own agenda or forcing things to happen on our time frame. So remember, relational bonding takes time because trust needs to be established.
Sure.
And many kids, they're dealing with things like loyalty issues and loss, and a new step parent in the picture often feels threatening to them. Trust has to be earned over time.
Sure.
So when it comes to bonding, if you haven't heard about this low and slow crock pot strategy, if you're not sure what we're talking about there and you want to know the best way to cook your step family, go back and listen to episode 72. That's so crucial.
Yes.
But just because we're applying the crock pot strategy, which means low and slow, doesn't mean we don't do anything to help spice things up and encourage bonding opportunities, right?
Yeah, a few spices in that crock pot makes things kind of fun.
Throw in a jalapeno or two, right?
Oh, spicy. Awesome.
We can still be strategic while we're applying the crock pot strategy. And that's what we want to explore today.
Yeah.
How we can strategically plan bonding activities while at the same time taking things low and slow.
Yeah. Yep.
But first, let's quickly consider another essential element around bonding. We want to pay attention to all the one-on-one relationships as well, not just the family time, because everyone in your family needs focused time with each individual connection.
Sure.
So for bio relationships, that may mean a couple of hours just connecting in a way that's really meaningful. And this is really important for providing the kids with some much needed stability and security from their bio parent. And it really goes a long way in easing their fears and their anxieties and that threat level I just mentioned that they might be struggling with. And it could even help them to release that need to compete for attention when family time does take place, right? Yeah. So, and to be able to relax. So one-on-one time with their bio parent will really help kids be able to ease into family time a bit smoother.
Yeah.
Now, for step relationships, the one-on-one strategy could be 10 minutes one-on-one, a little quick activity. Yep. And for couples, it could be a fun date night activity, right? That's an important one-on-one relationship as well. Whatever stage you're in, be creative about your intentionality as you support the individual connections in your home.
Yeah. And, this one-on-one thing, it's so important because
it is.
Often we jump in and we really get focused on family time.
We do.
We just want to be a cohesive family as fast as we possibly can. And so we think forcing everybody into family time is what we ought to do. But really, family time emerges out of healthy one-on-one connections.
Yes.
And when we can do that well, which I love how you talk about couples and date night, because that one-on-one includes us.
So important.
As a couple, yeah. So there's several different one-on-one relationships that ultimately help us create an environment where we can actually do the things that we're going to talk about today in this episode.
Yeah.
So I love that you call that out.
Yeah. Don't let that fall through the cracks. So important. Now, one more bonding basic we need to point out because, of course, we want to plan time for everyone to be together.
Yep.
But we got to keep this in mind. Tensions are often highest when everyone in the family is together.
Especially in the early stages.
Yes. So we've got to be strategic with family time based on your unique level of connection as a family. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Yeah. We're going to help you with that.
Yeah, we're going to help strategize that a little bit. So maybe you've just started out on your blending journey as a family and things feel a little bit chilly relationally, like we're spending time in the refrigerator rather than the crock pot.
Yeah.
Maybe you've noticed a lot of tension when everyone's together, like Kim was just mentioning, and maybe kids are really acting out or they're pulling away, kind of going quiet on you. It's normal for things to be a bit stressful, especially in those early stages.
Right.
And when you're there, when it comes to family time, you're going to want to choose what we call a level 1 intensity activity to keep that family time short and simple. We recently heard the term intimate strangers, and that's really where step relationships are starting out. It might feel intimate because you're all living under the same roof. You're kind of on top of each other, right? Doing life together, but you're actually strangers with very little context or history with each other. Everyone's kind of trying to figure out where they fit in and who you're going to become as a family overall. And that takes time.
It sure does.
Maybe things in your crock pot are just starting to simmer. Maybe you're moving into kind of that middle stage and everyone seems to be slowly warming up to each other. But extended time can feel somewhat stressful. So you'll want to focus on what we call level 2 intensity activities and do some trial and error as you figure out what everyone is able to tolerate and where the limits need to be.
Right.
And if stress is pretty low, connection seems to be going pretty well in your family, maybe you've spent a considerable time in the crock pot already using that low and slow strategy. That's great. You're going to want to think about increasing to a level 3 intensity with activities that allow for more interaction and possibly extended time together as a family. And so we're going to talk about level 1, level 2, level 3 activities as we go through our time today. But before you start planning your summer activities, carefully consider which cooking stage your family is at this point and decide what level of intensity you want to focus on in this season of the Crock-Pot blending.
Yes.
Remember that because relational tensions can rise when everyone is all together, you're going to want to be mindful of the intensity of each family activity. And we encourage you not to just wing it.
No.
Really think through this.
Yeah, be intentional.
Okay, so now that you've got just a few bonding basics under your belt here, you've considered which approach might be the best for this state of your family's blending journey. Let's explore some fun ideas that you can consider trying out this summer with your family. And first, we'll talk just a little bit about some level 1 intensity, low risk activities.
Right.
So here's your criteria for level 1 intensity activities. They're not lengthy. They're just short and simple. Okay. They've got an external component that will hold everyone's attention. So in other words, you don't really need to focus too much on each other relationally or feel pressure to interact, because sometimes that can be really awkward, and that's part of what creates the tension, especially when you're early in the Crock-Pot. But rather, we're going to be focused on the activity or something that we're doing together, side by side, as opposed to face, if that makes sense. And the other component is that you want to make sure there's a quick escape route if things turn for the worse.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in a position of forcing your kids into like prolonged time together if they're just having a hard time connecting and just really aren't ready.
Right.
So that's the kind of the criteria for level 1.
For level 1.
Yep.
So let's get really practical and just talk through a few ideas that you might consider at this level 1.
Yeah.
And we're going to share some of our favorites with you. Now, in our town, there's multiple garage sales every weekend. It's kind of a big deal.
You would start with the garage sales, wouldn't you?
This is a good level 1.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of those going on through the spring and through the summer. And many times our family has enjoyed going out to treasure hunt at garage sales. That's kind of how we put it. And this can be fun for kids of all ages and inexpensive as well. So when our kids were younger, we often gave them each a little budget of cash and let them know that when they run out, that's it. So choose your purchase wisely. And as they got a little older, they started to bring their own money as well. And we like to follow the garage sale signs. Sometimes it's just an adventure finding.
Yeah, they're not always that helpful. Yeah.
And then it's always interesting to browse through the stuff. And it's fun showing each other what we found. Even if no one finds anything that they actually want to buy, it can still be fun.
Yeah, there's quite a variety of stuff to look at.
Yeah.
Right? And you're kind of focused on that. You know, like what you're after, not
and
necessarily
sometimes
the
you run into people you know, or you
Yep.
start up conversations with people. It's fun. You can also do this at thrift shops, right? Now,
Yeah.
and our kids love this activity when they were little. They'd find funny little toys and books and games. And even now as teenagers, they really enjoy hunting for treasures. You know, at the last time we went out and hit some garage sales, our 16-year-old son found a hideous, ugly Christmas sweater, right, at a garage sale. And he actually bought it and wore it to a party with his friends.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
It was funny.
Yep.
Now, this doesn't have to be lengthy. You can hit just one garage sale and go back home if that's all the family can handle.
For a hardcore garage sailor, that's tough. Yeah.
Or if everyone's enjoying themselves, you could even consider extending it to include, you know, a fast food run or lunch or a fun treat as well.
Or something healthy.
Yes, whatever works. Now, if garage sales and thrift shops aren't your style, you could take everyone shopping at a local shopping center or a farmer's market, a craft fair, or even the mall can be fun, right? Now, the external component here are all the items and the objects to discover and focus on. So family members can choose to interact with each other or not so much if that's more comfortable. There's no pressure.
Yep.
And there's a quick escape back home if things get stressful. So you'll want to be sure to stay close to home.
Yeah, don't go way across the county. Yeah.
When you're exploring those level 1 intensity activities, that's one of the components.
Yep. What are some other good level 1 activities that we've done in the past. We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion.
Well, outdoor activities can be great level 1 activities. Yep. Some things that we've enjoyed are we planted a garden together or even just flower pots.
Yeah, we've done that a number of times.
Yeah, and our kids love to get out the slip and slide or the kiddie pool. We have pictures of all 3 of them in this little tiny kiddie pool.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when they were younger, of course. They loved to play in the sprinklers. And as they got older, we started having, water balloon fights and water gun fights in the yard.
Yeah, I don't know if I would advise water balloon fights and gun fights if the kids are,
if they're
a little
at
tense at each other.
Yeah, you could always have a specific target to shoot at rather than at each other, right?
There you go. That's a good idea.
But there are all kinds of outdoor games you can play. For years, I'm sure you remember this, honey. Our family loved to play Foursquare in the driveway with the neighbors, and our kids just love that.
That was fun.
They also enjoyed badminton, ping pong, basketball, playing with sidewalk chalk and Bubbles. Our 18-year-old still loves to play with Bubbles, and she plays with the dog now with Bubbles.
Yeah.
So there's fun, inexpensive things for all ages that you can experiment with. And you can also experiment with the length of time that you engage in these activities, right? If one child loses interest and wants to retreat and go back in the house, that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you've got 1 or more kids that stay engaged and the stress level is low, you can play as long as they're able to hang with it.
Yeah.
So be flexible and fluid and have fun yourself. Really jump in and engage.
Yeah. And, I think part of the point here is none of this is earth-shattering.
No.
Right? It's like, oh my gosh, Mike and Kim, those are they're just common.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, they're just common everyday things that we tend to do. But sometimes when there's stress and we're struggling in our family, we kind of ignore them or sometimes even avoid them rather than strategically engage with them.
Yeah, and think it through.
And that's the point of a level 1 is really strategically engaging with the simplest little activities. And when you do that, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you actually experience some wins and you pay attention a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And, you talked a lot about outdoor stuff, but there's a lot of little things we can do at home indoor as well. And not everybody has the best weather, like us 9 months out of the year. We don't have the best weather.
We don't.
We've had a blast doing things like playing the Wii. And, a lot of sports
Video
or dance games where it kind of gets us up out of the chair and that kind of thing. Or playing fun music. Remember that night where all of us stayed up till 1 a.m. looking up old music videos and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Just like the silliest things that might put you in a good mood and build a shared experience where, again, with this level 1, we're focused on something external, but we're building a shared experience together.
Yeah.
I mean, we've, made all kinds of fun foods or treats, built blanket forts, puzzles, arts and crafts. Yes, we had tea parties. I've drinking way too much dirt water in my life. And, even now, we still love to play board games and card games together.
As a family, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, some of these might not be appropriate for the whole family to engage in, depending on the ages and the developmental stages. And of course, you have to figure that out. But they're just ideas at this level 1, low risk engagement that you can use as a family. And the great part about level 1 things is they're kind of fun to use with one-on-one time as well.
Yes.
Like just this morning as we're recording this, I went and spent one-on-one time with Phoebe, and we just played cards at the coffee shop. In a semi-post-COVID world, that was pretty awesome, actually, to do that. But it's low risk, and it's great. And it's great for step relationships as well.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity to do one of the things we've called in the past, like shifting those people who are kind of feeling stuck on the inside, shifting them out, and then shifting outsiders in.
Yeah.
What that really means is we're building connection in the step relationships. So we find an activity where step parent and stepchild have a shared interest, but the bio parent maybe doesn't engage in that much.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity for one-on-one time for that step parent and the stepchild.
Yeah, and when Annika was younger, she and I did a lot of that around technology.
Right.
And computers and phones and video games and that kind of thing. You didn't give a rip about any of that.
I'm very low tech.
But Annika and I really enjoyed that time together.
Right.
So it helped with that one-on-one time and step relationships.
A good level one, because you can keep it as short and simple as you want. You can do it from home.
Yeah. So if tensions rise, these level one activities can get cut short if we really need to. They're low temperature, low pressure activities. And, they can be spread out in small increments over time.
Yeah.
Right. So I think they're just, it's a great place to start, especially if you've noticed a bit of challenging tension when family time hits.
Yeah. Get creative and try different things.
Absolutely.
Find out what works. A lot of trial and error. All right, let's move on to level 2 intensity activities.
All right. We're turning it up.
And these are things that you can explore once you've tried some of those lower level intensity activities and you've noticed that they've been going pretty well.
Yeah.
Things seem less stressful and relational tensions have kind of eased up a bit. And here's some things to think about for level 2 intensity activities. First, they typically take more time than level 1 activities.
Okay.
So maybe a few hours rather than just short and simple.
Right.
Second, they might have more of a focus on interaction with family members rather than primarily focusing on those external components.
Okay. So now we're starting to turn toward each other.
A little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're closer to home. And this is important because if things, for whatever reason, don't go well and you need to retreat, you won't have too far to travel. Okay. So you're still staying close to home. The escape route here might be a bit longer than in those level 1 activities.
Right.
But it's not a big road trip to get back home.
Yeah. So, so level 1 activities are like in the backyard, in the house, or, within a few blocks.
Right.
Level 2, maybe we're going across town or something, but we're not going across state.
No.
Okay. Got it.
So a few of our family's favorite level 2 intensity activities is movie night.
Yeah, we do enjoy that.
Yeah, and this is a good one because everyone can focus on the movie. And if you're lucky, they might engage in conversation about the movie and enjoy a few laughs when it's over.
Okay,
right?
so there's the external focus and possibly that relational focus.
And you're still at home.
Yeah,
so that's kind of moving it up a notch.
Sure, we like that.
Yeah. Other things we've enjoyed, of course, is going to local playgrounds or...
I love getting stuck in those little slides. Yeah.
or having a picnic at a nearby park. And, there was a season for us that bonding was really tough. And we'd been struggling for several years through the family court system.
Sure.
And some custody issues with my ex. And my daughter, Annika, was really shutting down and having a hard time connecting with us because of all of that was going on. And I remember we just packed up a lunch and said, hey, we're going to the park. Come on. And she was reluctant. She wasn't sure she wanted to spend time with us in that season because tensions were high.
Very.
But we, of course, packed a lot of her favorite foods and we brought a Frisbee along to help cut through the tension. And we were able to really enjoy each other, even though we were experiencing a lot of relational confusion and tension.
Yeah.
it broke through that just a little bit.
Just
we weren't there for hours and hours, but it was fun. It was enjoyable.
And it was nearby home.
It was right across the street.
Yeah. and I remember that moment as well. And some of the tension, it wasn't all gone, but it melted away a little bit.
Yeah.
And it helped.
Yeah. There were some smiles and laughs, which was great in that season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Our family also loves to get out and explore nature together. And this is a great level 2 activity as well. If you're able to do that and stay relatively close to home, then go for it. Because, being out in nature can be adventurous, especially if you encounter some, unexpected weather, or you accidentally get lost for a bit, or you catch a glimpse of a wild animal. I don't know. All kinds of things can happen out.
Or something, or a lion?
I was thinking squirrel.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow.
Squirrels are wild.
I suppose
we've seen deer.
Yes, we have.
In nature.
And we've gotten lost, too.
Yeah, and if you live near a beach, there's all kinds of nature down there. But nature can be a calming force where people tend to be able to breathe deep and relax a bit. It can be really therapeutic and calming.
Yeah.
And kids can get out and move. They can release energy, and adults can stop and smell the flowers. Everyone gets a nice dose of vitamin D if it's sunny out, and they can get some fresh air in their lungs.
Yeah.
Nature tends to be a catalyst to peace, right?
Yeah.
And that's always helpful for blended families.
And I'd say that's helpful for you too, because that's just like your happy place. Right?
Yes.
And of course, we happen to live in the Pacific Northwest, so we've got like mountains and beaches and waterways all around us. And we have made some use of that to make some fun family memories.
Yes.
Things like kayaking and swimming and hiking and beachcombing, sand castles and all that kind of, even those simple times where we're just skipping rocks together into the water.
Yeah.
What's great about talking about this for me is I have this tendency when it comes to thinking about family time or even one-on-one time sometimes, I overcomplicate it in my own mind. I try to make it this big, grandiose, like, oh, we've got to go ride a roller coaster somewhere.
Yeah, it has to be a production.
Yeah, but yet some of the most wonderful memories is, throwing rocks into the water with the kids when they were little.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I forget that.
Yeah.
And these level 1, level 2 activities can be so powerful for us. And if that's true for us, often that's true for the kids as well.
Yes.
And so we need to remember that when we go on walks together or go on bike rides together. There's just so many fun, inexpensive activities that you can do when you're just getting out of the rut, out of the norm, and do something new. Yeah. And of course, from my perspective, outside time's always better with some kind of tasty food or treat. When the Sugar Shack comes driving by and we can get ice cream, of course, that's my nemesis is ice cream. But we have stopped on the store on our way out and let the kids pick up things they like. We want to make it fun and exciting for them.
Yeah, if they can pick out a treat.
Yeah, we're not necessarily catering to the kids, but when we can pave the way with a simple stop at the store for a treat, and that puts everybody in a good mood, a little bribery goes a little way. That's okay.
You got to utilize what's at your disposal, right?
That's right. That's right. Now, we said earlier you want to choose something that's relatively close to home, and that's because with a level 2 activity, you're going to need to expect that your family might hit a bump. At some point, that tension level is going to increase. And if that happens, you're going to want to be able to transition toward a graceful ending to the outing and head back home. We'll talk about how to do that here in just a minute.
Yeah.
When you're in those early or even the middle stages of crock pot cooking, you're going to need to keep your expectations realistic. If your fun outing suddenly gets sidetracked by family tension, that's okay. You need to anticipate that actually and be flexible.
Yeah.
Don't let your own disappointment, which probably will come, but don't let that take over and add to the stress. And certainly don't jump into fix-it mode because a lot of these relational things, they need time in the crock pot. They can't just be fixed. And I'm kind of talking to myself here.
I think we all are.
Thank you for your bluntness. Attempting to force things to happen or extending an activity for a long period of time isn't usually helpful and can leave everyone, including you, tentative about trying family time again in the future.
Yeah.
You want to have a good experience so people are ready to do it again later, right? Instead, you've got to choose to be thankful for the time that you did get and celebrate any small wins that you might have experienced and just be willing to pivot.
Sure.
The main point is that you don't want to be miles and miles from home when things get bumpy and now everyone's stuck in the car for hours with rising tensions and stress, right? Because we chose to just venture too far before we were really ready.
Yeah, and that's why we suggest staying close to home when you venture out into those level 2 family time activities.
Yeah.
And again, remember, keep your expectations realistic. Short and sweet is better than nothing.
That's right.
So be patient. It's a low and slow approach.
Short and sweet's better than long and bitter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's best if you can refrain from pushing your own bonding agenda, no matter how great you might think your plan is, and it probably is really awesome. Be willing to release your own desires and just allow everyone in the family to move at their own individual pace. When tensions arise, it's most likely because someone isn't quite ready for forced family time.
Sure.
And it might feel like your kids are giving you a hard time when they complain or push back or act out. But the truth is they're probably having a hard time. So give empathy and grace when the tensions arise rather than reacting in a negative, punitive way. Okay? That's not the time to punish. Instead, move towards a graceful retreat, like Mike said, from that activity, and then do some emotion coaching with the child that seems to be really struggling.
That's right.
And if you want to learn more about emotion coaching a child that's having a difficult time, really around anything in life, go back and listen to episode 71, which is called How to Help Kids Cope with Painful Disappointment.
Well, it's called Holiday Disappointment. And we did frame it around holidays, but it's the core of that episode really helps regardless of the kind of disappointment.
Yeah. It applies to any situation.
That's right.
It's really based on that John Gottman book, Raising an Emotionally Intelligent Child. So it's such a great parenting skill.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just a quick tip for step parents. If one of your stepkids starts acting out during family time, be very careful not to jump into judgment of that behavior or criticize how your partner responds to the child. This can get sticky.
I'm laughing because I've made those mistakes before.
Yes, so we've been there. Instead, you'll want to have a curiosity mindset. Why might this child be having a hard time? Okay. Don't take it personal and overreact. Life in the crock pot is hard for everyone.
Sure.
So put on your patience and empathy hat and then allow your partner to emotionally support the child. Even if you think the child's being manipulative or overly dramatic, and you know that might be the case because they're struggling and they simply don't know how to handle their pain. It's okay. In the moment, you'll want to avoid doing damage to your relationship with the child and with your partner if you quickly jump in to label, correct, or even give unsolicited parenting advice to your spouse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't work well.
And I've been so guilty of that. I mean, I can remember so many times. I mean, all the way back to the beginning for us. One of the first family times I can remember is just our first Christmas together.
Yeah, the strawberry waffle incident.
Yeah, you were
forget?
right there with me. I know, and I remember Annika just having a meltdown, and you kind of had a meltdown. And that family time on a holiday when everything's supposed to be blissful, and I have all my expectations high, and I'm thinking, what is wrong with this little brat? Like that's what was going on in my mind. And I know I didn't handle that well, and I know I criticized your parenting as well, and that just got us nowhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later that we finally learned some new ways to say, well, you know what, let's take the pressure off, and let's not have such high expectations. Let's get more focused on these level 1, level 2, and we're going to get to level 3, and actually try to focus on being intentional about how we go about it, rather than just throwing it all together.
Yeah, and you eventually learned that the best possible response in those moments is to be supportive of your spouse with some positive affirmation, right? Regardless of if you agree on how they handle things. And then even step up yourself if you're in a place to do that, to emotionally coach the child as well by affirming them and acknowledging their unique perspective. This is hard for them if you're able to do that and have the opportunity.
Yeah. It only took me, like 10 years or something to figure it out?
Well, everyone's on a learning curve. We're all learning and growing. It's okay.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we've talked about, hey, sometimes tension's going to hit. We're going to have our expectations in line. We're going to know that's happening. And we have this graceful exit. And you might be asking yourself, okay, well, what does that look like? How and when should we back out of a level 2 family time and then try to pivot because things aren't going well? Well, let's just give a few thoughts around that. First of all, don't give up too early. Well, what we don't want to do is respond to the first complaint or minor stress and be like, oh, well, that's it. We got to back out. Mike and Kim said back out. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, give kids a chance to get a little comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if there's a complaint from one of the kids, try to work through it with the child and invite them to re-engage.
Right.
You can use that emotion coaching that Kim was just talking about. And sometimes you might be surprised at how a child can pull out of a negative attitude. Sometimes they can do it really quickly.
Yeah.
And you got to think about, if you're going to respond with canceling the event at the first sign of stress or complaint, now what are you actually teaching the child?
That they have a lot of power.
They have power and that they can control it. So we don't want to force, but we also don't want to allow them to derail the whole thing just with one small, simple complaint. So don't give up too early.
There's a fine line there. You got to find that fine line.
That's right. The other thing that can be really helpful is to have a plan with your spouse.
Right.
If there's one or two kids who seem to be struggling right now regularly with family time, you can talk and agree ahead of time of how many times that particular child's bio parent, remember you're going to help your own children in this situation, how many times they're going to try and emotion coach them through that complaint before you're going to make the call to pivot and head home with everyone. If you both know what to expect before you go into that time, then you're likely to avoid tension or conflict between the two of you as a couple when one might want to pack it up and the other one feels like sticking it out. You don't have to argue through that right in front of the kids.
Yeah,
right?
You might want to come up with some common language around the intensity of the pushback.
Yeah, absolutely.
What level are we at and when are we going to pack it up?
Yeah. You might also strategize how you could divide and conquer when that difficult moment hits. If several family members are having fun and just one is having a hard time, you might get everyone the option. The struggling child's bio parent could say something like, hey, everyone, I'm going to take Johnny home to rest up for a bit. You're all welcome to stay and keep having fun, or anyone who wants to head back with me can come along. But now you're giving them the choice, right?
Yeah.
So thinking this all the way through, if you're on a level 2 activity and you've driven somewhere, you might need to plan ahead and actually drive separately so that you can keep your options open.
Right. It seems counterproductive because you're breaking up the family time, but that's okay.
It's okay.
If you can still enjoy some time with some of the kids, that's all right.
That's right. And, you might also hit that point where both of you realize, hey, you know what? It's just time to pack it up and everyone needs to head home. Make sure that when you talk to the kids, don't come at it, with any kind of anger or frustration. Make the announcement with a smile on your face. Say something like, hey guys, thanks for coming out to have some fun today. It's really nice for us to spend some time together as a family. It seems like this might be a good time to pack it up and head home. So let's head out, right? I mean, they're going to kind of follow your cues.
Right.
And so if you get frustrated and angry, they're probably going to feel frustrated and angry too. So do it with a smile.
Yeah. If you're acting miserable, they're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you've tried some level 2 family activities and things have consistently gone well for everyone, there's very little tension and your crock pot has been warming up for a while, right? Everyone's getting a bit more comfortable with each other, then you might be ready to increase the intensity a bit and try a level 3 activity as a family.
Yep.
All right, so here's the criteria around level 3 activities. First, they involve some extended time together, more than just a few hours, and possibly even a day or two together.
Yeah.
They probably have a mix of focus. Some of the time will be focused on interacting in the relationships, and some of the time will be focused on those external components, so you
Sure.
can mix it up a bit.
Yep.
And you'll also want to agree as a couple what a backup plan looks like if things happen to get
Yeah,
bumpy.
that's a great idea.
because level 3 is a little bit riskier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to explore our favorite level 3 activities, but these might not be the best choices for your family. These are just things that you can consider as a couple and that you can brainstorm around.
Yeah, just think through a little bit. I mean, one of our level 3 activities that's been true over the years has been camping.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably where we've had some of our most memorable times together as a whole family.
Yes, I'd agree with that.
But
Yep.
camping can be a bit risky because things can go wrong, right? Just in general with camping trips. And we know this from experience because we've had several somewhat disastrous camping
We
trips
have.
along the way. and not because of family tension, but because things like getting rained out.
Mhm.
Or one time there was a burn ban in effect, and so we couldn't have a campfire.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
That was a bummer, I know. We had to deal with extremely loud noise from a nearby rifle range at 4 a.m, where I thought there was like an active shooter in the camp or
that
something.
was awful.
And once we even had fighter plane training going on overhead because we were near an Air Force
That was
base.
so
I mean,
bad.
literally, we couldn't even hear each other around the campfire that
It
night.
was awful.
And we even had howling trains all night that caused us to pack up and make a hasty, unplanned leave in the morning.
That's right.
You know what? Maybe we just have done a really bad job planning our camping trips. I don't know. And for us, all this was a hassle, and we were all exhausted and irritated.
Oh, yeah.
But those trips turned out to be big adventures that we recount now and we often laugh about.
Yeah.
But the thing about level 3 activities is that sometimes when those tensions hit and those unexpected hassles emerge, that can lead to more tension for the family.
Mm-hmm.
And it can turn into problems relationally. So you may want to hold off on, camping trips and things like that until you really feel you're ready,
Right.
that everyone can handle a little bit of that external stress that sometimes creates internal stress.
Yeah, they have to be able to roll with it.
Yeah. If you're planning a camping trip because you think it's going to bring a disconnected blended family together,
Ooh.
you probably need to back up and focus more on level 1 or level 2 activities until everyone builds up a little bit of family time stamina.
Exactly.
That's the way I would call it.
Yeah, that's good.
But if your family is ready, then camping or something like that can be awesome for building teamwork. When everyone's able to work together and set up camp, fix meals, explore nature, play games, tell
Yeah.
ghost stories, and, around the fire and all that kind of stuff, it
Yeah.
can really build some great family time. You just need to think it through before you start planning a big camping trip. And maybe you start with a short camp out, maybe
Right.
somewhere close, maybe even just in the backyard at first, just to see how things go.
Yeah.
Of course, any kind of family trip can be a great bonding opportunity, but trips are definitely high intensity activities where you'll all be together for a long period of time, maybe sharing a hotel room, traveling for hours,
Yeah.
things like that. So they definitely come with some risk. You want to be mindful about the length of time that you plan to be away and how far from home you're going to venture.
Yeah, those are all good things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not saying that family trips are off limits.
Of course not.
Don't get us wrong here, because they can open up new opportunities for bonding because they have that element of adventure,
Yeah.
right? And most people tend to be in a good mood when they're able to get out of the normal routines and ruts and enjoy a change of scenery. But what we really want to encourage you to do is go in with your eyes open and be strategic in your planning. Don't just try to wing this.
Yeah.
A little while back, we were coaching a couple who were really early in their blended journey, and things were really tense between the stepmom and her stepdaughters. And these girls were pretty resistant to their dad's remarriage, and they kind of thought he was starting over with a new family and ditching out on them. There was a lot of confusion and hurt feelings.
Yeah.
However, the husband really wanted everyone to engage in a family tradition, a trip that he'd been doing with his kids for years and with some extended family members as well.
Yeah.
But, of course, his new wife was not excited about this idea, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
She was worried about protecting her kids and herself from being kind of overlooked and excluded from all the normal activities that her husband usually did with his kids at this vacation spot, right? They had a history. And, of course, they were concerned about how his girls would react, and the potential for stress, anxiety, and more hurt.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
This was high risk for sure. So we helped this couple work together and strategize around each day of the trip, the scheduling of activities, and how time would be divided between family and one-on-one experiences. Now, the husband, he did a great job setting clear expectations with his kids around the schedule, and he assured them of what would stay the same, those things that he'd do exclusively with them, and what would be different this year as he introduced some simple, short activities that he'd be doing with his wife and her kids. And he, of course, invited his kids to also engage in those activities. He was careful not to force his kids, but he made sure they knew they were welcome to join in.
Sure.
Now, this dad also did a great job sending those 3 important messages that we talked about back in episode 92 to his kids, that they belong, he valued his relationship with them, and that he was there for them emotionally if they wanted to talk about their feelings or their concerns. Now, the couple also decided it was best for his kids to stay in a room with their grandparents, who they were also part of the family tradition, and that he'd stay with his wife and her kids. And he set this expectation with his kids before they left on the trip, right? So there wouldn't be any surprises or disappointment or hurt feelings or misunderstandings. So important. Now, we also spent time coaching his wife around how she might respond in those moments when she felt like an outsider, which would certainly happen, right? Or when she felt rejected by his kids. Now, this couple approached the trip with their eyes open to all the relational dynamics and the struggles. They didn't try to just wing it and hope for the best. They had challenging conversations as a couple and with their kids leading up to the trip. They carefully planned the schedule, and they were able to successfully honor his family tradition and at the same time began to slowly integrate the 2 families. Now, this wasn't easy, and there were still some tense moments on their trip. But in the end, his girls engaged with the short family activities that they'd planned, and they were open to bonding with their new stepmom and her kids in new ways. And this experience kind of became a fresh start for their blended family journey. It was really sweet. They laughed and experienced some adventure. And it meant a lot to his girls that their family tradition continued. So that decision really helped kind of undo their misguided beliefs that dad was going off to start a new family and they were just left behind.
That's right.
They were able to see that he was still there, wanting to do one-on-one time with them, and that they were still important.
Yeah. You know, what's so cool about that story, I'm glad you told that story, because it kind of blends level 1, level 2, and level 3. It had, you know, focus on one-on-one time. There was some level 1 activities in the midst of this big trip and all of that. It was really creative. And it's really easy for us when we plan a trip. We think, okay, we're just going to all be together all the time doing all the same things. But with this approach, what we're doing is we're breaking it up so that that intensity has a little bit of time to, we feel the intensity and then it subsides. And then we feel it a little bit more and then it subsides.
We're getting breaks.
Yeah, we're getting breaks from each other. And, you know, families need that. It's okay to need a break from each other. Yeah. But I love the blend of all that. So really, we're not saying, gee, if you're not at a level 3, then no trips.
No.
But what we're saying is to be really smart about them. Get your expectations in line and then carefully strategize around if and when you might take that trip and what that trip is going to look like. We've heard a lot of other stories about family trips that were pretty disastrous that actually caused some damage to the bonding process as well, because the couple just kind of jumped in and decided everyone needed to spend that extended time together. And that took that pressure cooker approach to bonding.
Right. It's too much.
Yeah. And usually it backfires. So be mindful as you move toward high intensity activities, that level 3 activities, such as camping trips and trips that are far from home.
Right.
Now, a good way to move toward level 3 activities is to start a little smaller and kind of work your way up.
Right.
So you might figure out some day trips or a little bit longer semi-local activities to consider first. And you could even think of these as like a 2.5 level of intensity, right?
2.5.
2.5, yeah. These kind of things are a little bit lower risk than a big vacation trip away. And they can kind of help you gauge if your family's ready for more extended time together.
Right.
A really simple one is going to the movie theater because it's a bit more extended time. And I would pair that with like a meal or something where we do have some interaction time as well as just spending time together.
Yeah.
But going to something with high activity level too, like a water park or water slides or a museum or a zoo or aquarium or something like that, a wildlife refuge, that kind of thing. I like the idea of signing up for a class and focusing on learning something new together. Maybe like a cooking class as a family or some kind of art class or music or dance class. Step parents, I would even recommend like if you can do something you're not that great at, but your step kids are really good at where they can take the lead and you can just kind of be silly.
You're willing to try.
If you're willing to you humble yourself and do that could be a great opportunity for them to just see you as a fun, goofy person. I think Annika enjoyed it when she saw my goofiness come out.
Yeah, especially with sports because you're not so good at that.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for advertising that, how awesome I am at sports.
But yeah, we've heard some really great stories lately.
Sure.
One family shared with us that one of their kids got kind of interested in archery. And so, the couple was like, well, hey, we can support that. And we might be interested in learning more about that. And so they started kind of venturing down that road. And the whole family actually started getting on board. And now they're all taking archery lessons and going to the archery range as a family. And it's been, really exciting for them.
Absolutely. Or a similar approach is like a new hobby or building something together. We were talking to one couple not too long ago where there was some relational tension between a stepdad and a stepson. But then as he was turning 16 and he was getting a car, he got kind of an old beater and it needed some work. And this stepdad happened to know how to work on the car. So they were working on the old car together. And now he's really serving that child and they're doing it together. And he's actually teaching him some things.
Yeah.
What a great opportunity just to build some bonds and kind of have that 2.5 level approach, right? These are great ideas that work as a family sometimes or one-on-one sometimes. And again, we want a good blend if we want to build
both of those
long-lasting bonds.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for most of these, there's an external component that family members can focus on.
Right.
And that can relieve the pressure of having to focus directly on each other. But there's also interaction. And there's a good blend of that.
Yeah.
So you can enjoy that experience all together without just being forced to interact the entire time.
Right.
That can be really helpful.
Those are good things to look for.
Yeah. So maybe you'll consider a lower intensity trip for, a day trip or a weekend. And go somewhere that's close to home just in case things get tense and you need to cut it short. Might be just a great way for you to get a feel for how those higher intensity trips might work out. So get creative. And if something you try ends up flopping, don't get discouraged.
No.
This is a learning process. There's going to be some bumps in the road as you do some trial and error around what works and what doesn't. But choose to stay the course and keep trying. That's the thing. Don't give up. Keep trying as your family gradually finds its new identity. And remember to move at a pace that's low and slow. Just keep the crock pot cooking mindset. And again, if you need to go back to that episode, go listen to it.
Yeah. So. And you may need to step back in intensity, and that's okay too.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So we've shared a lot of practical ways to experiment with family time and encourage bonding. And to help you do that, we've got a free downloadable cheat sheet for you. And in that, we even expand more ideas. We've got 30 level 1 intensity ideas They're all short and sweet. They all have that external component and a quick escape route if things
Sure.
get bumpy.
That's right.
On the cheat sheet, we've got 20 level 2 intensity ideas that are all close to home, but tend to be a bit longer and start to encourage more focus on relationships. And we've got 20 level 3 intensity ideas, or kind of level in between 2 and 3, for more extended time together where we build memories and have a bit more interaction.
That's right. And we'll link in the show notes for where you can go download that free.
You definitely want to pick that up for the summer. Now, all of these are mostly focused on summer activities because here in North America, that's where we're headed.
Yay, summer.
Yeah.
Good weather and sunshine.
Good weather and sunshine. But just think of everything you could try in the winter, right? Around snow and hot cocoa and winter sports.
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
But as you move into this season, be considering first where your family's at in the crock pot process, right? And then explore which family activities you'd like to try throughout the summer. We encourage you to spend some time as a couple really talking about this, brainstorming and mapping out these activities on your calendar. And to help you do that, like we said, we've got this free downloadable cheat sheet that you'll want to get full of ideas. And it also kind of recaps all the things that we talked about today.
Sure.
We've also added to this cheat sheet a simple debrief worksheet to help you talk as a couple and evaluate how each activity went so that you can assess the outcome of your family time and decide on some next steps on how you'll continue moving forward based on those results. So that
you kind of have to debrief that. Right?
You don't want to stay stuck. No. And of course, depending on where you live, COVID might impact your planning, right? But get creative, stay motivated, even if you hit a few bumps in the road, and move at a pace that's comfortable for everyone. And don't forget to prioritize one-on-one time for the bio and the step relationships and the couple relationship. Get those on the calendar as well. Don't neglect that.
Yeah. Now, step parents, some of you might have kind of a knot in your stomach because you've really been struggling to bond with one or more of your stepkids. I get it. I've been there, and it's a real struggle. And maybe you're feeling like an outsider. You're that stranded stranger stuck on the outside, not really able to connect in the way you want to.
That's tough.
That can be really frustrating. Or maybe you just hate to admit it, but your stepkid really annoys you. I've been in that position as well, where Annika just really frustrated me sometimes. And I had a struggle just being around her in different seasons. Maybe you're frustrated because they just keep rejecting you when you've tried to connect with them and you're ready to throw in the towel. If that's you, I just want you to know you're not alone. We know what these challenges are like and that they're hard and they're discouraging. And so we're going to add some links in the show notes to a few of our past episodes that can help you just to focus on things like even liking your stepchild when you're feeling frustrated or annoyed, or how to create strong bonds with resistant stepkids so that you can move toward a stepchild, even if they're rejecting you. We've also got an episode that we'll put in the show notes for how to survive alone time with your stepkids if you're going to be the one in charge for extended periods of time over the summer. You want to be able to show up for that well. Focus on connection, not correction. It's hard to do. It's a delicate balance. You want to avoid, extra damage to the relationship. Really.
Got to be careful.
So check out those episodes and also the one that we mentioned earlier, which is all about the crockpot bonding strategy. That's episode 72. We'll have a whole list of all those. There's lots of resources in the show notes.
Yeah, we're loading you up.
Yeah.
And don't forget the free download.
That's right. Yeah, grab a hold of that.
Our hope for you this summer is that you'll be able to get really courageous and creative and do some experimenting with family time, even if things have been bumpy and even if tensions are high. Don't stop trying new low-intensity approaches to connecting and creating memories together. And if you're ready to move on to those level 2 or level 3 intensity activities, good for you.
Go for it.
Remember to keep your expectations in line and be flexible if you need to pivot, but go for it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And we certainly want to encourage you to stay focused on the positives as well. So remember to acknowledge and celebrate your wins.
Absolutely.
And to help all of us maintain that positive focus and stay motivated, we'd love to do a future episode that's all about blended family wins. But we're going to need your help with that. We'd really love to hear from you, our blended family coaching show community here, about the wins that you've been experiencing throughout the summer.
We want to hear from all of you.
Absolutely. Let us know about the big wins and the little wins. You know, one stepmom not too long ago shared an experience she had simply kicking a soccer ball around with her stepson, who happened to be very resistant to blending for a long time and was struggling to accept his dad's decision to remarry.
Yeah.
But this brief few moments that he opened up for a small, playful interaction was just so meaningful to her, especially over those years that they've struggled to blend.
Yeah, he let his walls down.
That's right. And this is just one example of a small win that can really help to carry you through your frustrations. If you're able to hold on to those wins and you don't lose sight of them, they can be really encouraging, right? And this is so important because it's really those minuscule, sporadic, unexpected moments of connection, like that skipping rocks that we talked about earlier, that slowly add up and become the building blocks of your relationship. Sometimes we get big wins when we're lucky and things just tend to click into place and relationally with some of the kids. But that's not the case with every child. And often it's not the case with every blended family.
No.
So we've just got to acknowledge the small wins and make them count.
Absolutely. So send us your wins.
Yes. Yeah, just go to mikeandkimcoaching.com/share.
Right.
And just share your win with us.
Yeah, and you can share as much detail as you'd like with us. Go for it. But we love your contribution to this episode that we want to do about celebrating the wins.
Yeah.
And your experience can inspire others who might be struggling and offer them some hope.
That's right.
And that's what we're all about here on the show, right,
Absolutely.
honey? So this is your chance to be part of it, and it'll give you an opportunity to mindfully be looking for your family's wins and to celebrate them.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to read those and collect them throughout the summer. And then as we headed toward fall, we'll try to put all that together.
Pull it all together.
What an opportunity to celebrate.
I'm excited about that.
For sure.
So please share.
Please do. Yeah. Try out, go download your cheat sheet and try out some of these ideas. Level 1, level 2, level 3, all throughout the summer. And then just head over to mikeandkimcoaching.com/share so that you can share your wins. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, please.
All right. I think that makes this episode a wrap.
Until next time.